Hi Mr. Keddy, so I'll be doing my second video journal today and we'll be analyzing a quote from a character. So I'll be also stating why it is important for the novel as well as for myself. And for just a little refresher, the book I'm reading is called 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. And the quote I'll be analyzing is by one of the protagonists in the books named Laila. She said this during part 4, chapter 51 of the novel, and it reads, "Mariam is never far. Mostly, Mariam is in Laila's own heart, where she shines with the bursting radiance of 1,000 suns." So before we analyze the quote, I think it's important to know why it was said in the first place. So before anything, it's important to know at this point of the novel, which was around part 4 at the end, Mariam and Laila, who are complete strangers to each other, actually have a very close relationship, and one could say that their bond is as strong as a mother and daughter bond. So this quote was actually said when Laila and Tariq, which was Laila's husband, was actually about to get separated from Mariam and go to Murrey, which is another city in Afghanistan. And the events leading up to the book was that Mariam had actually killed her own husband, which is Rashid, in order to protect Laila. And this was because she was actually being strangled by Rashid. So Mariam tells Laila to leave because the Taliban would come to the city. And not only that, the Taliban were actually ruling the city at the time. And when they find that one of their business owner, which is Rashid, was dead, they will come looking for the culprits of the crime. And they will also try to find the closest relationships and members of his family. And at this point, it would have been Mariam, which was his wife. So if they find that the wife had disappeared too, this would actually cause more problems, and the suspiciousness of the wife being the culprit increases. And they could actually find justified reasons for Mariam to kill Rashid, which was that women were treated as property of men. And with the backstory, Mariam was actually forced into this marriage, so the Taliban could see why Mariam could have been the culprit that killed Rashid. So Mariam actually stayed behind to reduce suspiciousness and to allow Laila and her whole family to escape. Essentially, Mariam made herself a target for the Taliban, but in exchange for that, she actually managed to save Laila's life and allowed for Laila and her family to escape, find new opportunities, and hopefully have a better life than what Mariam had to face for herself. So Mariam sacrificed herself for Laila, and Laila actually hears that Mariam's death, which was that the Taliban did capture Mariam at the end, and they had a very short trial, and the verdict was to ultimately send Mariam to her death. So when she said the quote, Laila was actually looking to the sky at night and said this heartfelt quote to say that even though Mariam had passed away, she would always remain in Laila's heart, and her sacrifices would not go to waste. This quote is trying to teach us that even when someone passes, they will always remain by your side, and for Laila's case, they will remain in your heart. And this quote is also trying to apply that love is everywhere, and it is a very powerful force, and it can help anyone overcome any single situation. So this quote is very significant to the book, and it's because it teaches us an important lesson that is related to one of the more prominent topics of the book, which is love. And we see how this quote references the book's title, where the ultimate idea of 1,000 Splendid Suns, as said in the quote as well as in the book's title, is that in any situation, there is always light and hope. And what's more important is that the driving force in our life, which is really love, can help us overcome these adversities and tough times. And this quote is very effective in the novel, and it shows its significance. It's because throughout the book, we see that how these two women are in a war-struck country and they face many losses. But as a woman as well, Mariam and Laila face gender inequality from their society, and they also face rejection from their families. But both Mariam and Laila still managed to find love for each other, and what's crazy is that they're actually strangers to each other. And because of this idea of love, they managed to overcome these different tough times and adversities in their country. And what happens is their love actually lights their way, and it helps them overcome this tough time and difficult situation. It also teaches us and seen in the novel that their positivity and optimism can actually affect others and also inspire others. And I'll explain how the quote has affected me later, but we also can see how it will affect future generations to come. What matters most about this quote is that at the start, we see how both women, Mariam and Laila, don't have an understanding of what love is. But throughout their adversities, at the end of the novel, we see how they develop an understanding and a definition of love. So at the start of the novel, we see how Mariam was called a mistake by her mom. And her mom always loves to use the word harami against Mariam to scold her. And the one that Mariam thought loved her the most, which was her father, actually sold her to a man called Rashid. And what's worse is that Rashid was an abusive husband to Mariam. And in these situations, we see how Mariam doesn't understand what love is. And in Laila's situation, there's actually not much difference, where she's also rejected by her mother because her mother loved her two brothers more than Laila. And Laila only had a few friends. And the person she loved the most, which was Tariq, had to move away because of the war. But fate brought them together. But at the end, we still see how Tariq passes away. So Laila's understanding of love is not much better than Mariam. So at the start of the novel, we see how Laila and Mariam both don't understand what love is. But at the very end of the novel, we see that in this situation where the quote was implied to, the characters had developed and now they understand what love is. And their definition and understanding of love at the end of the novel is that you're willing to sacrifice yourself for each other and for another person. So Mariam in this situation not only murdered her husband for Laila because he was strangling her, but Mariam stayed back to ultimately become a prisoner for the Taliban so that Laila could escape and have a prosperous and hopefully a better life with her husband and children. And Mariam at the end sacrificed herself for Laila's survival. And Mariam at the end died, but still Laila felt her love from Mariam. Furthermore, what made this quote more impactful is that the situation in Kabul can be described as only dehumanizing. And we see how Laila and Mariam have to endure these situations. And they can't rely on hope and love because they never experienced it before. And to them, they're just empty words. But towards the end of the novel, we see how they actually find meaning to the words and ideas of love and hope. And because of that, it helped them to overcome these adversities and tough situations. And we see how their bond will ultimately last for eternity, which is why we see how this quote is very significant to the Talisman Sun. So this quote is really important for me, and it's because the lesson it teaches us in the quote inspires me as an individual, especially in this day and age where, as an Asian, there's going to be racial inequality. And for me, in the past, or even now or in the future, whenever I go to a foreign country, I will always be linked to stereotypes, even though the norms does not apply to me. As an example, when traveling to England once, I think 2 years ago, so what happened was we were asking an officer for some directions, but the person in patrol couldn't actually understand my father, since the English proficiency between my parents and I are very different. So I explained our situation to the officer, but the first reply he gave me wasn't answering the question, but instead was asking if my dad was actually my father. And this is all because the English levels between my parents and I are different. Furthermore, this quote is very important for me because every single day we can see how the world is becoming more and more divided, where as a person living in this century and generation, it is a very frightening thought whenever we think about our future, where we first see conflicts in the world today, such as war going on in African nations, first world countries fighting against terrorism, and every day in the news, there is always something new about bombings or mass shootings. And what's worse in all these struggles for power and ideologies is that the biggest victims are always the innocent citizens, such as myself. And also with child trafficking existing, I need to fear for my safety. And in the future, with global warming and the growing problems of overpopulation, we can find that our resources will soon be depleting, and in the future our food and waters will be in shortages. So this quote really reminds me that regardless of all these problems that are existing, that we need to linger onto hope, and to find that even if the world is becoming a devastating place, that we can overcome them with hope and inspiring for change. So this quote also teaches me and tells me that with our optimism, hopefully it can influence other individuals and inspire them to also strive for this change, to hopefully make the world a better place. So in conclusion, we can see how this quote said by Laila in part 4 in chapter 51 of the book A Thousand Splendid Suns, which reads, "Mariam is never far, mostly. Mariam is in Laila's own heart, where she shines with the brilliance and bursting radiance of 1,000 suns." So this quote is very significant in the book as well as for myself. And it overall teaches us that in any situation, there is always love and hope, and that can be the beacon and our light and our solution. And that the power of love and hope is very infinite and strong, and it can inspire many individuals, and it can overall impact our lives. So thank you for listening.